This conference will now be recorded.
On the line, correct?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay. And Counselor Hildebrand's here.
Present.
I'm here, and we've got various other members of the city council here, and I'm ready to get started. So let me start by making a couple of points. Back on 4/18, you all recall, we were with the budget proposal that we started with, we were $4.3 million. Actually, if you round up, it's 4.4.
Upside down.
And then we discussed the revenues, and we deleted that $2 million out of the estimated revenues. So that brought us up to 6.4. And then we had some more discussions, and then we directed staff to figure out how do we get this balance. And they came in on 5/13 with a positive cash available of 783. Then we did some more adjustments, and now where we're at today, which is on which one of these sheets? We're at 395. Oh, 302 if you're really particular about the numbers. So with that, Mr. Juan, are you going to do this or?
Mr. Chair and committee members, let me just, I think you covered some of the highlights just for the benefit of the public.
Oh, wait a minute. I guess we need to approve the agenda.
Yes.
Now that you pull that up.
Oh, I move that we approve today's agenda for the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, we've got approval and second. Any objection? Okay, now we're on discussion and recommendation.
All right, Mr. Chair, committee members. So this is the updates from the May 14th on Saturday that the Finance Committee recommended staff and entertained the motion. As you will see in your list that JD prepared of all the items that have been tweaked and changed. But for May 14th, item number 20 is the Roswell Police Department added 5 additional police recruits for $285,070.05 for salary and benefits. We talked about an engineer additional position, $121,243.85 salary and benefits. And on the operating expenses, we reduced economic development expense down to $129 to balance to the following organization. We talked about the Hispano Chamber at 50, Main Street at 60, and EDC at $150,000. On the capital expense, that was, Lewis brought to our attention about we needed to kind of reconcile those differences, which we did on your report that you have with you. At the meeting as well, there were some questions about, some items. Of course, this is informational only because there were questions about, well, in additional to the police department, what is the equipment and vehicles that the number? And this is the number, as you can see there, for the per officer. It's $58,025, which is broken down by $1,100 for pre-employment process. And that pre-employment process is not the same as what the HR does for every position. It is more of a psychological review that is required for public safety police officers. Uniforms and equipment, $11,840. Police vehicle, $45,000. And of course, the total for the 5 is $295 for the equipment and all of those items there. And then there was a question about the ordinance regarding the convention center ordinance and what it covers. And as you can see there, pursuant to section 2372E1, states that the 250, just for record, Councilor Foster
Just joined us.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing not to get you.
Huh?
It's a rat.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We shouldn't have caused that.
Like y'all caused it, just trying to keep me from getting here.
Are you doing some excessive driving?
So pursuant to the section, the 250 bed fee can be used for cost of acquisition of land for the design, construction, equipping, furnishing, landscaping, operation, maintenance of a convention center located within the city. So that is the code language for use of the 250.
Okay.
So with that, Mr. Chair, committee members, as you can see now, that is the revised budget summary that you have before you, along with all of the the detailed reports from Tyler, both on the revenues, transfers, personnel, operating, and the capital. And as you can see there, and I'm going to switch over screens because this is really small, and I'll pull up the packet that you have. As you can see there now, in the general fund, we still have an available cash at the end of 395,302. And as we go down through each of the funds are in the black, which is a balanced budget that would be acceptable to BFA. As you can see on the road fund, now, with the adjustments that we made, we have 1.4. This is a good balance because, as you can see, we have quite a bit of grants in the road fund. It's a separate road fund. So this will be what we would use as cash flow, because we would spend the money and then we get reimbursed and so forth. So this gives us a healthy amount to be able to manage those grants to make sure that we have the reserve. We pay the money up front and we get reimbursed.
So you feel that you got cash flow then?
That's right. So this gives us that flexibility. There's probably room there for a little bit of project or two, but if we can leave some money there, that way we can manage the grants back and forth. And then all of the other funds, and that towards the very end, we have available cash. We have a balanced budget with a total in revenues of 113,627,336. Total operating expenses, personnel, operating, and capital at 145,081,603, and we still have an ending cash balance of 33 million. Of course, we still have the 3/12 reserved in the general fund of 10.7 million, which leaves us an available cash of 20.5 million for all funds and all budget. So with that, Mr. Chair, committee members, we'll stand for questions and on any of the items.
Okay, I know you're going to hate me for this.
Sure.
But I want to go back and discuss our contractors that we contract out with. Hispano Chamber, EDC, Main Street, and those primarily, because that's what's highlighted here. You can pull that slide up. And those are larger amounts than presently in the 22 budget. I would suggest, and we've got to put them in there as a placeholder. Even in a preliminary budget, we've got to put something in there. But the Hispano Chamber contract is presently tabled in legal committee, right, Mr. Chairman?
Correct.
And
Review on next legal.
meeting. And EDC
Same as well, same.
is the same thing. It's coming to legal committee. It's not tabled in there. We haven't taken it up yet. Main Street, Roswell,
Same.
we have a contractual obligation for 40 of that 60.
That's going to legal as well.
I'm not in charge of that one.
It's actually, the amount has been approved if the budget is approved. You have to put it into the budget if you're going to take care of it. If you do not put it into the budget, then that contract is null and void. So the only action that you have with Main Street now is the budget.
So we've already approved
Their contract is set up to receive 60,000 a year, but they will not receive it if you do not appropriate the money.
Is it 60 or 40?
60 is 40 is what they normally have. We increased it to 20,000 in the last agreement that we had with them that was approved. But it is all based upon the appropriation of the elected body, which means that if you agree with that contract, then you would put it into the budget at that time.
Okay, so maybe Main Street, Roswell's not a valid topic to discuss.
But with what the chair is saying, Hispano Chamber and the EDC have not reached those conversations yet.
Correct. They have not passed that threshold.
So I would like the committee to consider changing the Hispano Chamber and EDC to the funding that they have in 22. And until we have a chance to work it through the committee process, go to legal. I don't know exactly what the topic is. I'm not chair of legal, and I'm not going to ask Ed to tell me what he knows about it. And then those come to here. And then by then, maybe we'll know what our cash carryover, if we have any from 2022. We'll know what that picture looks like. We're about 90 days out of sync with our current expenditures and potential shortfalls and carryover. Because we don't know what that is yet.
And I would say, Mr. Chair and councilors, that both of those should be at your plate by the time of the final budget.
Yeah.
By the end of July. So they're both in the queue in order to be heard by legal. And so whatever comes out of the city council with those two, then we can plug in correctly for those two
Okay,
by the final.
so that's my suggestion. If you guys want to change it, that's,
No, I don't disagree until we go through the right process or the process of going through legal. Then you'll know what you have.
okay,
Otherwise, you don't know what you have. So
right,
if we need a motion to move that, I so make it.
okay. So
If you don't, then
I've got a motion to, go ahead.
The amount from last week's meeting, it was 96,000. It's actually 100,000
Okay,
and his final is 30,000.
okay.
okay, yeah, because we got told 96. Yeah.
Okay, so make those adjustments. I've got a motion to make those adjustments. BEDC at 100,000 and chamber at 30. Okay. So do I have a second on that? Because we're going to look at this again.
Right. What I'm gonna say, this whole thing, this is preliminary anyway, so it doesn't, as long as it's balanced, doesn't matter. Back to the idea that to put it in there at 150, if we haven't made the agreement at 150, is already. if
Put the
not-
cart before the horse.
And it's not like we're playing poker with them, showing
No.
our hand,
No.
but it is, yeah,
Okay, so I take that as a second.
that's a second.
Okay, any further discussion? Councilman Perry? Hello? Okay, so any opposition to making those two small adjustments? Hearing none, let's make those adjustments. Okay, so that's just one area that I'm trying to get a feel for how the process works, and we don't want to jump the gun. Not any,
You're right. We're not playing poker with them.
no, we're not,
Yeah.
we're not sending any messages. We're just leaving things.
Well, and we're leaving them in our budget. If
Right.
we were taking them totally out of our budget, that would be saying something else.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that. Okay, so gentlemen, I know that you've had these available, but I don't know if you've had a consistent amount of enough time to go through them. There's some more bullet points that our finance team put together for us. I hope you took a look at those. And so I'm basically ready to see if there's any other questions. I took care of the one that I saw sticking out.
No, I think just general comment, these are everything that we had previously spoken about have been thoroughly changed and to reflect in this new preliminary budget. I know, again, I'll say it again, that all the hard work that you all have done is paid off for us to look at a balanced preliminary budget. So again, great job. But I've looked through all these.
Yeah. You could give me all the time in the world to look at this Tyler stuff and I don't know if that's going to help me unless you give me something other than that to read through. But the discussion of adding 5 police officers in public safety, it came up and we were told, why are you would hurt the morale of our police department by adding 5. Because they have 6 unfilled positions right now.
I heard 10.
Well, it's 6.
Okay.
We actually have a corrected number.
We have it corrected.
in chart.
So we have 7 police positions
aide.
and 1 PSA.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And so, and the idea, and we've told them all along, once you get 100%, there's going to be those 5 positions there. But putting 5 positions in when they don't have it full is a smoke and mirrors, in my opinion, saying that we're adding 5 positions when we're not. Because we're not adding 5 positions. Unless they can hire them, we're not doing it.
Well,
I mean, right now, we're at 94 as a full capacity. We're 7 short. We're at 87. So until we can get those 7 positions filled, putting money just there is a smoke and mirrors saying that we added 5 positions when we haven't added 5 positions.
Go ahead.
I have a question about that. It's not your responsibility nor my responsibility to make sure that those 7 or 8 people are hired. It's our responsibility to put the money out there and you go get it. And that's the way I look at it from,
Well,
management is hired to do that. Now, whether they have difficulties doing that or not, I get that. But at least we're allowing, saying, we've got the money or we put the money in the budget. And if they can't get them, you come back through and make a mid-year adjustment. I don't understand what you're saying. I'd like for you to expound about what you're talking about, the morale.
that was what,
I'd like to
that
know
was what they told
I would
me,
like to know who's they.
the police department. You can go back and watch, the police, the public safety.
I'll go watch that this week.
That was what was said. You making more so that we're trying to fill 7.
Yeah.
At the time they were saying 10, and you put 5 more out there. So now we're 15 short. Well,
Right.
So now instead of saying we're 7 short, we're 12 short.
Right.
We still have the same 87. What sounds worse?
I don't
12
think any-
short or,
I don't think any of it sounds worse, and I'll go back to what and if they say, this is what we need to fill those 15, then change what we're doing here, is the way I look at it.
well, go back to throwing money into an area and holding on to it so that it can't be used anywhere else. Doesn't make sense.
Is it your fault that they can't hire 7 more?
My statement has been, I've been on the council since 2010. We've been 100% funded or 100% manned in the police department since 2010, one day, 24 hours.
So this is correct.
So it's not that we're not trying to get them, that it's not funded, but just throwing money to say, to me, that is saying that we've created 5 more positions. Well, it's not creating 5 more positions because potential, but we're still 7 short.
I will tell you, in my entire career as a public servant, when I was in the state legislature, state fees,
That's not salary.
game and fish, a lot of those agencies were never 100%, never. You had the same problem with the sheriff's office. So as county commissioner, they never get to 100%. Occasionally they do for a very short period of time. But you've got to follow it. I'm not saying they're going to go find those 12 positions for 7 + 5 is 12. The day this is enacted. That's crazy. That isn't going to happen. Because we all know that they've got to go through all the processes. They've got to go through. Can you pull that slide up, one, please?
Which one?
One where it shows the breakdown of the salaries and stuff, or the
The background checks.
Okay, equipment.
there you go. They've got to go through that pre-employment process. Welcome, counselor. And they've got to go through those psychological tests. And I mean, it's a long road.
I know the year process it takes but once they're hired, it's over a year. And the process to get to that first hire is longer. Still, what I've said and what we've always said, and we've told the police department, you get 100% funded, you're going to have 5 more positions the next day. We'll have a special city council meeting and we'll put that money forward and do not quit recruiting. What I am saying that I don't like, this sounds political. We're putting 5 positions out there. Council's hired, put 5 more positions in the police department. We're doing something with crime. We're not doing anything with crime with this. And that's where I object to it because we've had it before. We've talked about it before. And when the police department tells you that it's going to hurt their morale, I have to listen to them.
Counselor Bass.
I have a question for Mike. Mike, you're public safety. You know all about the police force, fire department, et cetera. What if we took those 5 positions that they want to put up here and put it to equipment? I'm sure they don't have plenty of equipment I'm sure their building over there is too hot in the winter, too cold in the summer, however it goes, because that building sucks if you want to look at it in a short term. I agree with Barry, it will hurt morale because we've never gotten to full. We've already agreed, like he said, with the police department, that we will do a budget adjustment for more police if they can hang on there. I'm more worried they don't have the correct equipment and housing over there to take care of what they have now. And that's my personal opinion. And I kind of a little bit agree with Barry when it says it's political, because it was on a few cards that we're going to increase public safety. Let's increase the safety of our public safety men and women. My two cents.
Any other counselors? You got anything you want to weigh in on this deal?
Well, just that I think that because of how we have, and I'm not upset the staff, it's put in here correctly, but we're not looking at 285,000. We're looking at over $500,000. We're looking at $575,195. I had just tried to call you earlier, David. You're a very busy person. And so I apologize, but I've just, I went to the legislators finance meeting and all this morning. So it's been crazy for all of us. What is an average of hire and retention within the police department over the last 7 years? And if that's something you can't answer, you just can't answer.
I don't know right offhand. I mean, the process to get them hired on is about anywhere between 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months. And then retention, it just depends on where they come from. If they're local, then they're going to stay a little bit longer. If they're from out of state, maybe 2 years.
So in reality, what is the likelihood of being able to have 13 hires and retentions?
It's going to be very difficult.
Okay. And that's just where I am. I'm all for it. I got 2 boys on the police department. I got one that can't wait to last day of high school next year to jump in there and hope that he gets chosen too. So, I mean, it looks like we're going to have a whole house full of men in blue. And so I'm proud of that. I want them to have the absolute best. I don't, as I've spoken with them, the chief understands. I spoke with him when I went to we had 2 take the oath of office yesterday. I went for the oath of office ceremony yesterday over there and sat and talked with the chief and few of the other officers over there. I think that it excites them to hear that police are on the radar. That makes them very nervous about the ability to meet what the demand's going to be. So as I hear from folks over there, I think that they are very comfortable in knowing that this council is ready, that as soon as these positions are filled, that we've got their back to add more positions. Above that, I think there's maybe some nervous tension.
Well,
Would be a good way of saying.
I want to respond to the extra 290,000. If the committee will remember, I asked that question and we didn't have the numbers.
Right.
And so you need to keep that in mind. And so if we fund the 5 positions, leave them in the budget, then knowing full well, we still have to have their back, because if they, by the grace of God, be able to hire 12 officers, then we're going to have their back. We're going to find this other 300,000 and we're going to get them equipped. While they're in school, we'll try to finding police vehicles right now is hard to do. It's hard to go to any car lot in town. They don't have any inventory. When they get it off the truck, it's already sold. There's somebody already speaking, got a contract, maybe verbal, but they've got a contract for that vehicle as soon as it gets here. So they can't get it because of the way things are in this country right now. Well, that's not a fair statement, how they are in the world. And that's okay. But I want them to understand that we'd like to put more boots on the ground, period, in the story. Still have their back because we're going to have to find another $300,000 if they get them hired. But I want them to be afforded every opportunity to get the 7 plus a couple more if they can, maybe all 12. I don't know what they're going to do. I hope they get it done, but I don't know if they're going to get it done or not because there's too many chess pieces on the board that have to fit together to make this happen. And we put it in. You guys want to take it out? I'm ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead and finish, Counselor.
Someone,
Who?
no.
Julianne is on the line.
Oh, Councilor Howerson has joined us. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were on the phone.
Oh, yes, I've been on. I myself, I'm fine with leaving the 5 officers because buying more equipment isn't going to do it. If you don't have the police presence out there, you can have all the best equipment in the world. If you don't have enough officers, it's not going to matter. So I'm fine with leaving the 5 officers in.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, so do I have a motion?
If I could finish with a couple of more questions. Is there a way that this council, as you just said, that the desire through this is to ensure that the officers know that we have their back? There's other ways that I think that maybe we could accomplish the same thing. The council could adopt a resolution that verbally states that the council is fully intending that upon the full staff, that 5 officers or upon all but 2 or all but 3. There's ways of making the statement which you're saying is the direction of what we're trying to do here without encumbering $500,000.
Well, it's not encumbering $500,000.
It's $500,000 that won't be able to be spent anywhere else.
Not encumbering $500,000. What we're talking about encumbering is, what's the number?
290.
200 and some change.
285,070.
That's all we're encumbering.
So we're not going to encumber any vehicles or anything
Not
potential.
in right now.
So
We'll make a motion to include that.
okay, I'll be quiet. I'm not trying to argue. I'm trying to give good communication, but I'm not going to be pushed to make a motion when I'm just trying to explain my mode of thinking. So I'll just be quiet.
And my thinking is that 185,000, if we spoke to the chief, there's lots of ways he could use that better than just sitting in an account for a year. Because that's what it would do. Because it's not going to have, you can ask them and they're going to try their best to get 7 hired. But they sent, how many did we send to the academy? 9? Have 3 coming back?
Well, you got a big washout at the academy.
No, we normally don't have that large a washout.
Well, and again, based on past experience, after they get on the force and start getting out there with their training officer, then they wake up and go, I don't want to do this, and they'll bail. I mean, being a police officer is not an easy task. I've dealt with them 15 years as a judge. I can't tell you how many times they would come in and just sit and vent in my office. And I'd let them just talk it out. Because you got to do that, because it's a stressful job. It goes from sitting back, drinking a cup of coffee, eat your lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever, to boom, we got a shooting and off they go. And
Chair, we know that, but that's not what we're talking about here is what Paramount says.
Mayor, thank you for joining us.
Adding these 5 positions is more political smoke than it is anything else. Because it's not hiring people.
Oh, I'm sorry, Juan. Councilor Page.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You know, in my personal opinion, I don't see what the problem would be to encumber the $290,000 or $85,000. for 5 police positions. And if we have the problem with equipment and some other problems that we're hearing from the police department, why not find it someplace else? Someplace else in the budget. But that would assure that we would have the 5 positions just in case that we need them.
I'm just saying, I'm speaking to what the police department, what was spoken at public safety. And they said that adding these 5 positions would hurt morale. So if you want to listen to the police department, or if you want to say that you know better than what the police department says.
Okay. Mayor. They said that adding 5 policemen would hurt morale.
Adding 5, we are 7 short now, and at the time they were thinking they were 10 short, but 7 short, and adding 5 more, making us 99. So now we'd be 12 short. So what sounds better, 7 short or 12 short? And they said it would hurt their morale.
Well, if you added 5 more, they wouldn't have to work so hard.
We're not adding 5 more. We're not hiring them. We're just saying that we will pay for the positions that they can hire from. And since 2010, we've had 100% manning, one 24-hour period of our police department. So saying that we're going to have 99 police officers positions doesn't mean we're going to have 99 police officers.
Well, you're going to
say we have 84.
5 out of a bunch out of retirement.
We have, well, we're not saying, we say we have 94 now, but we only have 86. We're 7 short. So when you just create 5 more positions, you're not creating 5 more police officers. You're just saying that they're 12 short now. And we've always said when they get 100% staffed, there'll be 5 more positions waiting for them. Don't stop recruiting. Don't ever stop recruiting. That we've always told them, and they know that. But like I said, when this is printed in the paper, the city council's created 5 more police officers when we have it.
5 more positions.
5 more positions, but in the paper, and people read it, that we created 5 more police officers, and we haven't.
Total agreement. We haven't. We've created the positions. And it's our job, in my opinion, you can disagree, we set the policy for the city and the various departments. And I expect them to do their level best to follow that policy. We're saying we need to look at getting 5 more people in addition to the 7, 12. So you're looking for, instead of 7, now you're going to be looking for 12. That's what we're saying.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, do we believe the police office is doing a good job of trying to recruit right now?
I have no idea. I assume they are. They've got some in the pipeline.
I would say that the office is doing a good. Mr. Matthews, you're very familiar, and this is part of what's underneath you. Tell us a little bit about what they're doing on recruitment.
They have a full team over there. They've got 3 people that works on this every day of the week. They're out at job fairs, they're recruiting, they're going to schools, they're going everywhere they can to try to recruit potential. So they're taking those in that may at one point in their life had maybe a desire to do something like that. They're taking those in and they're spending time with them to see if they really do have that desire. Obviously, they're very strict.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing. And if I could just add, I'm not speaking for the deputy chief that made that statement at public safety, but this is what I think he meant by that statement. Because they have come into my office multiple times over the last 3 years with excitement that, Mike, we're down to 3, we're only 3 short now. We're only 3 short now. I think what he was referring to was if overnight they're at 12 short and they were at 7, psychologically, it may be a downer for those recruiters, but I think that's all they meant by that. I don't think it meant like their whole department's going to go into some kind of depression because there are 12 police officers, I could be wrong, but 12 police officers short. But I think as the recruiters are working out there daily, trying to hire, I know their excitement when they see, because a few times the chief's been in my office, and we're one short. We're one short. I said, the day you hit that, you better be in my office. And the next day they lose 3 others. So they never got that. That's what you meant by that statement.
Moving the goalpost on them.
Something that, I mean, it's, I know them too well. If they're in there or if they're not in there, those people are going to go out and they're going to work every day to try to be fully staffed at the Roswell Police Department, and they're going to do everything they can to get there.
Okay, so, and also on top of that, I'm assuming it's your department has been doing the films and stuff with the officers. I know my son said they one last night. I found, I don't know, 4-minute, 5-minute right along with him and talking about why he chose the Roswell Police Department, you know, why he loves his community, why he's here. We've got multiple departments that are working feverishly, not only to ensure this, but also our fire department for recruitment. I just don't want to send anyone the message or the feeling that now not only do you have to get those, but this is the goalpost has been moved. I guess that was a good analogy that's been said. I don't think that not putting these 5 in here is saying that we are anti-police. I want them to succeed. And I know I'm motivated, I'm driven by what I can obtain, what I can reach. When my goal becomes less and less obtainable, my energy isn't quite the same. My morale is not quite the same. And that's just where I want them to be able to see that it's right in sight. We're almost there. Then they get those 5 more. I'm ready to give them 10 more, 15 more, 20 more. But I want them to know that it's obtainable, what their goal is.
Well, yes, ma'am.
So I do have a couple questions. Did the police department actually submit a wish list?
No,
Okay.
not that I've seen.
So then I'll direct the question to Mr. Matthews. Where do you see them in need at this time? Do you have any knowledge of a possible need or shortage?
Outside of the personnel, they have building needs, obviously. Vehicle needs, but that's totally out of everybody's control, just like Councilor Korn said. We are very fortunate to have been able to find the vehicles that we got last year because of some past relationships they held on to for us. So that's going to be an ongoing need for every department, is availability of that type of equipment. So there's always needs in every department, you know, buildings. As far as their personal equipment goes, we take it, that's number 1 priority. We're going to make sure they have everything they need, their equipment that they utilize to do their job. So and I don't know of a need that there may be some wants, some different something that I'm not aware of. I would have to get that from the chief himself. But other than building needs and the need for vehicles, those are the 2 big needs. And one of them is out of our hands, obviously.
Okay, so then I guess that leads me to ask, is it actually open that up to where it's a little broader and creates either is for positions or additional, I don't know how you would word that, but just funding set aside specifically to address public safety needs that may come up? Is it possible to do that?
You asking me?
I'm asking anyone who knows something.
Can I mention something on that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Previously, because there was such difficulty in getting vehicles and the government process of having to find a vehicle and then us coming to council and giving your 72-hour for a meeting and then vote to approve it and then get a mayor's signature on it, then get that vehicle, it's gone, like Councilor Holmes was saying. So we thought out of the box, and I say we, staff did and brought it to us. Let's pre-approve. Let's pre-approve X amount of money for vehicles. That way, when that vehicle is right there, you push the button and you buy it and it's done. And that worked very well, didn't it, Mike and Joe? And I think there are ideas like what you're saying that are potentially possible to allow for that quicker response to be able to get stuff that's usually government ties down and makes very slow. I agree. Those are potential possibilities.
Because I'm not opposed to putting 285,000 in the police department, but line item it into something that's not going to get spent next year doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not as pessimistic as you are about it won't get spent.
I'm just realistic.
Did they ever fix the roof?
Yes, sir.
So it's not leaking anymore? We don't have the catastrophe?
Not today.
Till it rains again.
They haven't had a problem today.
Yeah. Last time it rained, it didn't.
I think you guys are looking at this wrong. I mean, we've all been in here, we've heard all this stuff. If you add 5 more policemen, just think how much money you can make. We can raise the price on the March for Hope. We can raise the price on the Veterans Administration. When those veterans do parades, we can raise the price. That just get us more money. These guys can make us more money.
You're encouraging that to happen?
Well, you seem like you're going to do it anyway. I mean, why we get the walk for hope?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I don't know where that's germane to the conversation.
Well, I know nothing is, but I asked when we had these meetings between March, let some of us new guys come in so we learn some stuff. It was just for staff. And all I'm telling you is that, we're making decisions about this stuff and everybody in here wants to do this, but if we shot for 12, maybe we get 7 and maybe just as long as we increase the numbers and the ones that retire, we increase them by 1, we've done something good. Maybe we haven't spent all the money, but you can always change the line item if it seems we're not going to get that much. And so we don't ever fall off, then we can always go back and put more money in cars if you have to. So we can get cars. I mean, it's scared me to death to have people riding around in used cars. But,
My problem I have, Mayor, is I know from my experience, this is nothing. This is doing nothing. Except putting 285,000 and a place in the budget or place in the paper where it says that the council's created 5 more positions. It's not created 5 more positions. It hasn't hired 5 more people. They're not going to, realistically, I do not see them being hired in the next 12 months. But if we get the 7 filled, we can be in here that day and put those 5 positions there. But what I'm saying it's doing is it's fulfilling political promises and it's all smoke and mirrors. And I don't sit around and I do things like that.
Well, I don't think necessarily looking for more policemen with stuff we have going on in our community is necessarily a political issue, but that's fine. I'm sure you can blame it for whatever you want. But
it wasn't on advertisements in the last political race that we're going to hire. We're going to hire.
But I don't run from it either. I'm going to tell you, I think when you have kids shot in the park like that and nothing happens, I mean, that you look at what's happening in our community, and I think it couldn't hurt us to have 5 more policemen.
I'm not saying it's going to hurt us. I'm saying this isn't doing it. I'll say the exact same thing. When I was in charge of the concession stand down in Dexter, and our governor came in and he was going to make everybody healthy, and we got this 451-page document of how we're going to have to make everybody healthier. And I went through and I had to look through it and found out that I didn't change anything in the concession stand whatsoever. So it didn't make it, but it sure was political and it sure made sure that the governor was making all our kids healthier. It didn't change anything of how we handled ours. This isn't changing anything how they're hiring. We're hiring.
Let me pose a question. Okay, we don't put the 5 positions in the budget. and we hire 7. And we come in here all excited because we decide now's the time to put 5 extra FTEs in the budget. You're sitting in the same spot then than you are now. Those aren't positions, they're positions, they're not hires. So you haven't changed anything except you've delayed the decision-making process to allow the recruitment of those individual people.
What we're doing right now is putting $285,000 in a line item that will not be touched in the next 12 months.
Well,
And it can't be used to help the police department in any way, shape or form unless they fill those first 7 first.
Well, and please don't mix your apples and oranges. The maintenance requirements at the building is a different spot. It's not in the personnel side, it's in.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. That 285 is frozen in that spot and will be here 12 months from now when we're talking again. But if there's a need at the police department for tasers or for a new vehicle or something like that, that money can't be spent for it.
Well, let me suggest this. This is looking at a cloudy crystal ball. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do from today, 14 months, not just 12, 14 months. And all this stuff is going to get moved. We've got enough, this is a preliminary budget that we're going to send for DFA. They may or may not send us back. Well, we don't like this, we don't like that. You all need to adjust this. And we'll take those comments, roll them in, and we're going to vote on then the budget. This isn't the budget. This is the, right. And then we're going to get in here, have a meeting, try to figure out what those adjustments need to be. And then it goes back to the city council for another vote.
I know the process.
And in 6 months, we can look at it. We can look at it the next month as far as that goes. But my desire is I want to move this committee on to some other parts that make up the budget. And the way we're going to do that, in my mind, is we're going to have 2 finance committees a month. And we're going to start going through the operational side of the budget. We've just barely nibbled at the outside edge of the operation side. And we need to go into these various departments and we got to look at what they're doing, what their plans are, where they want to go, whatever, in conjunction with our team, including Joe and Mike. And this budgets are fluid. And so it's in the budget. It's in the proposed budget that we're going to send to DFA.
Mr. Chair, I haven't heard us talk a little bit about what our goal is. And I wanted to share a little bit with you because our goal for the police department is to reach 120 officers.
Okay.
That is our goal. And the challenge we've had was that we were never able to make the headway for that. So what we started doing was our budget can't afford 120 officers in there. So we budgeted tranches of them, and that's what we did. All you're talking about doing, I will say for everybody's sake, the money is there in the budget. It's whether or not we're going to encumber it into that budget or if it's going to stay in the cash on hand. So it is there. So as you look at that, based upon the statistics that we're aware of the city our size, the issues that we are having, we should be about 120 sworn officers. That is our ultimate goal. Now, getting there from 94 or 87 from what we really have for bodies, that's the challenge. That's the goal. So I'm not going to tell you which way you should go either way with that. The money is there either direction you go. It is either going to be in the cash on hand or it's going to be an encumbered cost. I just wanted to make sure that, because I hadn't heard that, I don't know if we talked about it at public safety or not, but our goal is 120 sworn officers. That's how many we believe our size of the city, our issues is going to take in order to manage it appropriately. So thank you.
And real quick, I'll get right back to you.
If I could just ask, Joe, just a question.
Go ahead.
But isn't it true that even if it's encumbered or if it's in general, you still have the ability to move them around?
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't matter whether it's encumbered or not. The fact that it's encumbered doesn't mean that you're not able to you that
Yeah, for all practical purposes, so semantics, it's a philosophical issue is really what it is whether or not it gets locked down this way. What the city administration will do is that if this money gets placed into the budget for salaries, we will make sure that the police department does not move those dollars to something else. If it stays over on the other side, then it's going to just be kind of a just in time to feed into the budget when it comes time. Yeah, the money is there for that. The tendency that we've seen over the years is that we find other needs that become very important for whatever reason, whatever the issue is at the time. And we want to make sure that we always have that conversation back with the elected body. But yes, it is a philosophical decision, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Well, and you said 120 is a big number from where we are today, even with these five. And I'd rather personally give them five, see if they can recruit five additional to the 7, 12. And then next year, hopefully, we'll have the budget and they'll have those positions filled and maybe we can add another five. Because you're not going to get to 120 in one leap because the cost is just craters the budget.
And I think that's where the challenge is coming with this whole conversation is that we have 7 now. We're going to have, if we add the other 5 to that one, we're going to go after 12. And then we're going to add on, I mean, I think you said it best is that we're going to be in the same place a couple different ways. It's really what and how you guys wish to speak as a city council.
Well, and as you all have heard me say, this is the biggest policy vote we'll take all year long, every year. And you get 2 bites at the apple plus adjustments in the middle. And it's a policy statement that the city council is supporting the police, and you just heard it from the city manager, we need to be at 120. So here is movement toward that goal.
And I don't see it as that because I know, because we are at 120, but we have to get to 94 before we can get to. And so
but you gotta
encumbering, and even though it's encumbered, it can be moved, but if it's encumbered in personnel, the process of getting it out of personnel to another is a little bit, well, is it more stringent to move something personnel funds into a expense fund?
Not really, Counselor.
It's just moving.
We used to have a restriction on moving anything out of salaries because we've always been short-handed in almost every department. We cannot seem to fill everything and keep it filled for any length of time. Our attrition rate is, I think it's a little over 20% is our attrition.
Well, and it's not any different than it is in the private practice.
Right, yeah.
If you can stay at 20%.
Problems are different. Yeah, the problems are different everywhere. And so the idea was that there has to be an administrative approval to move the money from any line item to another line item. And if it's a big enough amount, then it'll take council action as well.
Yeah.
So we've shifted that model just a little bit, Counselor.
Okay, so are we through with this? Are we going to get a motion? Are we done?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I've not heard anything yet that's convinced me. I don't understand putting in for 5 positions if we're not going to put in for 5 of everything it takes to have that. To me, it is, if we're truly looking and seeking and believing that we're going to gain 12 positions total this year,
I got you.
then you got me.
Okay. Put the slide up for the equipment. Okay, 290,125. We've got available cash balance of 395,302. We've increased that a little bit by deducting those contractees. So you want to add those positions to the budget? We've got the money. We've got it in cash balances.
And if somebody can explain to me what we're going to do differently to bring them in. I'm all for, when I came on the council, and Councilor Orpesa can correct me because and Councilor Foster would be the only ones I think that would remember this. I think, were we at 110 or 105 that we were budgeting for? 105? Is that fair? And because we could not get to that point, everyone was in agreement, the chief, everyone at that point, that a reduction was in the best interest to allow them to be able to get to where they needed to be with the assurance that we would, if we needed to go up, we needed to get 115, 120, when we could get there, we would get there. I don't think that's ever been a question from anyone on the council, regardless of our personal thoughts or where we would stand on different issues. I think we've all been pro-police. I just want to hear how we're going to get there. What are we going to do differently, or what's the expectation for staff to get there? I don't want to be here in a year and have any counselor or council as a full saying, we gave you the money, why did you not get the positions? You know, we heard at the last meeting about the engineering position. Is that included in here? Okay. Yep. I saw it in here. I'm just making sure. But we heard, and I can't remember who, but at some point, someone in the room said something about, you know, why have we not provided this position to this department? And I'm paraphrasing, but staff says it's been there. We've had it's been advertised for 3 years, getting someone to attain to it or to entertain, to get them in the room to even have a conversation about the money. They've not been coming forward. I don't want staff to be sitting before us in a year concerned or worried because they weren't able to get what the expectation of this council was to be.
Well, if you want to add those additional items, I'm in the committee right now. I'll get to you in just a second. And make your motion, and that'll give us a cash balance roughly, because I haven't added back the two things we deducted, of 105, 177. Is that what you want to do?
With that, because that goes into more conversation about other things. Are we comfortable with our cash flow of what we have moving forward for this year?
If you can, Councilor, what we're talking about is just the available cash. We still do have the 312 reserve. And we did receive our May GRT. That came in higher than, at 3.7. We projected about $300,000 less.
Yeah, we came in, and I asked you for this information just a moment ago. We came in right at 346,000 higher than May of last year.
Councilor Perry, can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
We have $10 million in reserve. I think that's plenty way to handle the cash flow issue. Is it not?
I hope so.
Question.
Yes, sir. I just want to ensure, because I don't know the direction of the council. There has been talk before of less going out when loans are cheap and use cash on hand for major purchases, but we haven't done that necessarily times before. So I don't know the direction of where we're going. So I would hope that would be indeed, but I don't know.
I'm trying to understand the budget, and I don't think that there's, it's all in here. And so are you saying you don't know where council's going?
No.
I don't.
Last year we had a major.
I don't understand your statement. So if you'd please expound upon.
How much was the major piece of equipment we had to purchase at the dump?
500,000.
A million.
For the
million more.
Yeah, for the scraper was $1
million. $1 million right there. Money was cheap to borrow.
Right.
So that's the direction we went. But we did have counselors. I'm not being disrespectful. Everybody has equal opportunity on the council. We did have counselors that had concerns, and since we had the money in the bank, would rather have just used available cash flow and the available cash instead of borrowing money while money was cheap. So I don't know the direction. We've not all worked together long enough to know what each of our philosophies are in that. I would hope so, but that's where I'm coming, just to try to understand.
Well, and things have changed. money is not as cheap today as it was whenever y'all were having this discussion. I mean, I don't know. And those are policy decisions they will have to make when they come up. I mean, it's hard to say, we're always going to do this or we're always going to do that, because that may or may not be the case. I may change my vote from one time to the next based on what I see. I mean,
At that moment.
at that moment. And this is looking through a cloudy crystal ball, figuring out how this city's going to operate in the next, we're making votes now and the budget's moving. It doesn't ever stop. And we've got to get on down the road and we've got to do this preliminary budget and then we'll get a final. But that's still, it's a breathing document. It's a living, breathing document. And we're going to make adjustments from now till this time next year. And then we're going to be in this room having this same discussion on preliminary budget. Or may not be the same discussion, but having discussions. Maybe that's a better way of saying it, based on what's happened during the time that this 23 budget is in place and where we want to go down the road. And then we just kind of, we try to keep folks, and we'll never get crystal clear on this stuff. It never happens. It'll never happen. So, and Councilor Bass, you had a question?
I had a question for Mr. Matthews. Mr. Matthews, the positions that we have slotted in already, the 7 that we're missing, do we have the budget for their complete uniforms and everything already?
Yes.
Including cars?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think what you said, I'm agreeing, but I think we're looking at it a little different. The hazy crystal ball that we're having to look through to determine what's coming up in the future, I think you would agree, and I know Ed would, I would think, and Barry as well. I'm sorry, my fellow counselors, that yes.
Okay, I've told you that from day one.
But we have to use historical data to try to help determine what we're going to see coming ahead. I personally think that we're going to be much better off in the GRT than the 2 million decrease that we've got here, but that's neither here nor there. We've got a balanced budget here. Okay, so no quorums there. But with historical data, looking at this, you know, from our HR and from our police, those recruiting and everything, our historical data doesn't show much of a potential of a 12, 13, 14, 15 gain in a year. So as you just said, this is a living, breathing document that on a monthly basis, it's changing, it's turning. On the day one, as soon as we approve the final budget, next day, this changed, you know, we all know it's going to. We have the ability then, as it evolves and as while something great or unexpected happened that historical data has not showed us, those can be added in. And I think that sort of makes your point, and I think it makes my point as well, depending on how you're looking at that crystal ball. I believe we have to use historical data.
Well, okay. Everybody's had their stay, their statement. Everybody's happy. Didn't cut anybody off. Everybody had their chance. So we need to move. So I've heard 2 possible motions. We can file out or add the equipment costs into this budget. Makes me no difference. Make a motion. We'll see what this committee decides. Or let's see if somebody else has another concern about 5 police officers.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we remove the positions. Let me hesitate. 285, I don't mind staying in the police budget. But where do we park it if we don't put it in the police? I'm asking our monitor, Joe.
Yeah, Counselor, I think if you're going to put it in the budget, the safest place to put it is in the salaries. If you're going to leave the money in that budget, we don't have a line that says miscellaneous, figure out what we're going to spend it on later. I mean, that's not on there. So dedicate those funds to what you hope to dedicate those funds to, and then that'll allow us the movement within that. Jenny, would you agree? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
Okay, so you're.
So there's not a better
not a
line.
better line for it. Then,
That was a motion, correct? Remove 5.
yes.
Do I have a second?
Second for discussion.
We're going to take a vote. We'll discuss this sucker for
Okay.
the last 20 minutes or more. We're watching.
Please.
Huh?
Repeat the motion, please.
To remove the 5 positions from the budget.
Okay, and I've got a second. So those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Those 2 counselors that vote against it, those that are against the motion, nays, 2, dies on a tie vote. Any other motions on this item?
I make a motion that you put the extra money in to make for a total $575,195 towards police for
The equipment.
for the personnel and equipment.
What was the number?
575,195.
Oh, so
Let's put it up.
no.
The positions are already in the budget.
Okay. So then let me rephrase that.
That's that number right there.
I will rephrase to add, because it is currently there. So that there would, my motion would be to add $290,125 for the equipment for the 5 police positions.
Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion on this part of this motion?
Question.
Yes, sir.
So then when you hire those 5, they're going to need 5 police cars, right? 5 police vehicles right then?
No.
But you're allocating that they'll need, how soon would they need those, Mr. Matthews, upon hiring? And at what point in time would they need those 5 units?
It depends on when they go to the police academy. If they go towards the latter part of the first year, they'll after they get back from the police academy. So after 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Unless they're lateral.
unless they're lateral, that's
If they're lateral, we need them right away.
right.
Okay.
That's very true.
So I got,
Thank you for that.
any other questions, Councilor Hildebrand?
No, I think I fully understand.
Okay, so we've got a motion to add the 290,000. Keep in mind, we didn't have this figure the other day when we were discussing this. So, all right, everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0. And so that leaves us a rough cash balance of 105, 177, if the math is right. Plus, we get to add a little more to that figure because we deleted a couple of the contract items. So probably another 100,000 round figures. So we're 106.
Which leaves us where?
Fair assessment.
That's what I have.
Which leaves us
Okay. So
cash on hand balance.
that's good. Okay. So, all right. So we've discussed that. Any other items in the budget that needs to be discussed?
I have some questions, Mr. Chairman. So with the addition of that, where does that leave us now on available cash balance at that point?
I just stated that, 105.17.
But there were rough figures. I'm trying to understand, is it 105? Are we looking at 2? What are we looking at?
175.
About 200,000, I would think.
Pull up the slide with
Here, I'll do
the
the math.
It took 20,000 away from
150,000.
Nano and we took 50,000
Down
away
to
from
100 and, what's EDC's presently 100?
100,000.
50, so we're taking 70 away.
70,000 away, so it'd be
Yeah, and you added 285.
175,000.
Right.
All right, we can do some quick math here. Let's see.
I think Councilor Perry, I think you're 175 to the plus.
That's where.
Roundabout.
291
That figure.
out of there.
We're
And
adding,
then, yeah, and you're going to subtract 20,000 for the Hispano, or you're going to add, I guess, the other group. direction.
Yeah.
And
Add into this, the partner contracts are not out of the general fund.
right,
They are out of another fund, the community development fund at the end of it. So you cannot remove those from that cash balance.
No, but it's got to be
So now you're 105.
105, 177, just what I said.
It's in the general fund.
Do pretty good, leave my shoes.
You called it first to begin with.
Ain't left my shoes.
economic development.
That's true.
Well, that's going to be minus 50 plus 20.
Minus 50, minus 20. Or you're going to add that because we're going to lower it. 50.
Yeah, that's it.
And, yeah. No, we're going to lower it. 70, yeah.
So that leaves us with 424,020.
It's going to go the other direction.
Adding it up.
Now, because we're lowering what we're putting in there.
Yeah, by 64,025.
Oh, that number one more time?
564,000.
Total.
025 available cash in the Economic Development Fund, which EDC and Hispano Chamber are being paid out of. And the top one for the general fund with the adjustments would be 105, 177 for the numbers that you have in your spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's the number I came up with. Like those other two came out of the general fund, but just for an overall picture. Okay. So, all right, so we've got those items that everybody,
100,000.
and everybody done on those two items.
If we lower it to 100, it's reduction of 50.
I hate when that falls out.
So anything else?
I have a question, on the road fund. I was trying to figure this one out and what did we spend this year on the road fund, roads? In the process, we have this year's budget.
If we look at, have to look at the packet, find the work fund. If you want to see how much has been spent in capital, because they spend both on operating on M&R, which is in the operating side, and then you have your capital. Do you know what page are we on?
This is road fund for the miscellaneous is going to be in here.
Page 97. The packet.
Here.
And you can see it's M&R. It will be on page 96. M&R. So when you're asking the question of how much they spend, so the current year actual is $3.4 million. And I believe, Janie, that's as of just current, right?
Right.
As of March. So that's, and then of course we have the budget of 4.5. That's on the operating side of M&R. And you'll have to look at the capital, which is on page 127. Roads. And the current year actuals right now is 4.4. And they have a budget of $6 million. So they're still, and of course, in your capital report at the end, you have all of the capital with all of the POs that are current encumbrances. And there's still some encumbrances right now. Now, that report, of course, there has been some activity, but that will be reflected in the final. So when all of the POs are closed out, then we'll have a revised number on the road as far as what's the current outstanding, and then what the balance, at true balance at the end of June 30th for all of the funds. Really.
I can get you a little close with the the budget from fiscal year 22 for the whole road fund was a little bit about 12.8. And we added another million in there with the money during the year. We probably get a little bit shy of 14 million total.
We added the 1/7.
1/7, yeah, that's correct. So I can't get as close as Counselor Horn can get there with his numbers because I haven't looked at those numbers for a while, but that's essentially where the budget numbers were. You can see what happens with the actuals from what was budgeted because of timing and everything else. So
The one thing I want to make sure is that it's either going up or it's at least where we're budgeted this year. Because we can't have the roads.
our goal has always been to meet that goal as well too, Counselor, is that we want to hold it where it's at a minimum. We would like to increase it a little bit because we are trying to reach that number that the study was trying to explain to us. So
We needed 16 million a year going into
it. So we've seen those increases every year. And so we are moving it up.
Question, just for my edification, that 16 million that was, and I've got the study, I didn't bring it with me today. Is that for the physical buy-in of material, or was that for the total, including all the operation expenses?
I know that Mr. Nahar and I kind of disagree on exactly what that is because our whole street department is doing preventative maintenance. So the thing that tears our streets down the most, water gets underneath the asphalt and it breaks it up. So if we are crack sealing, if we are patching potholes and everything, what the street department does, then that is preventive maintenance on sustaining the property longer. And then we've got the projects on top of that. I believe that the study, there's some language in there. It talks a lot about doing the preventive maintenance, but then it has a disclaimer at the end that is trying to talk about projects. So I think we could go back and get that clarified a little bit farther. But I think everybody that understands infrastructure, that the idea is to keep the moisture out from underneath that asphalt and it lasts longer. It's not the driving on it, it's the cracks and the condition afterwards. So in our position has always been just trying to get that number to keep climbing, to keep up with that 390 miles of streets. So.
Sounds good. Any further questions? No. Anybody else? Got any more questions? Councilor Perry? Councilor Hillebrand, you got any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so what you'll want to do is the amended temporary short-term send to DFA budget.
Mr. Chair, do we need a motion as a recommendation for the total? I mean, there was three motions made to make amendments, changes to the budget. We need a recommendation motion to send this as amended preliminary budget to the council, which will be on Monday's workshop.
What's your pleasure?
Well, preliminary budget.
Oh, yeah.
It's balanced. I make a motion that we send as amended today for the fiscal year 2023 revenue and expenditure budget, preliminary budget to full council for review and with potential approval.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Anything else today?
You can just remind everyone of the timeline, Mr. Chairman, of what we're looking at now.
Well, Monday, I've got a piece of paper out here somewhere. We're going to have a budget workshop with city council and hopefully get some public input or not. I can't control that.
What time is that on Monday?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. So Monday, we will be at the convention center so that we have the room for the entire council to go through the workshop. We will walk the entire council through the mechanics of the budget and bringing them up to date with what all you've been working on. Thursday, we have a special city council meeting set. It will be directly after the legal committee at 4 o'clock. We have moved the legal committee to the convention center, and we will hold a special council meeting at the convention center as well, so you don't have to travel between the two. That'll give the legal committee 2 hours to do their work. And then at 6 o'clock, we will go into the special city council session.
And then vote this sucker because we've got a hard deadline of May 31st to get this DFA in their hands. And it's my understanding that they've already started inputting the stuff in the report for DFA. Now, I hope they're not far enough along that this is going to bother them, but they'll have to make any amendments to that document that goes to DFA. And then in 4 to 6 weeks, DFA will send us back and do their notes, and we'll bring it back in here and massage it. And at that point, we'll have a real good eye on adjusting out of the 22 budget to see if we have any cash carryover. And then we'll have some discussions about that, and it'll go back to the city council for final approval. Do I have that right?
Yes, sir. And I will say that Roswell's been very successful at not getting a lot of comments back from DFA on the preliminary or the final. So
yeah, but you know how it is.
I know it. We should be good. And as every month gets done, we're a little closer to knowing exactly what our cash balances will be coming into the next budget, what the give back is and everything. So,
okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So
What time is it? Councilor Perry, do you have a meeting on Monday as well?
I stated from the very beginning, Monday is the only day I've got people coming in from Colorado, Arizona, Utah.
So that's a 9 o'clock.
No, that's at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I have to be in Artesia. So that's the only day I cannot. So, but that's okay. Did want to make an announcement that, or just a mention that I attended just a little bit of the LFC meeting today at New Mexico Military Institute. And as they produced the capital outlay information from the past, it was very refreshing to go through there and see all the red color on there from cities that are not, following through, and to get to Roswell and everything being just right where it needs to be. It was very, very good. There's some area where they're just waiting on information from us, but there was nothing alarming whatsoever. Mr. Fuentes was there as well, and you had another staff member.
Yeah, and who's our grants projects coordinator was there as well.
And so she's a grants projects coordinator. And it was funny because I heard from the director, finance director last night, the encouragement to have someone on staff that has an English major.
Oh, no, and she has a BA.
Okay.
I thought she did, but no, it's a BA.
But she's there. We've got who we need in place. So it was good to hear from the director of what he foresees or thinks the city should be doing. And the city's way ahead of them on this and very prepared. And that was refreshing to see.
Mr. Fuentes, you had a question?
Yes, and actually Janie just corrected me. It's our other accountant in the finance that has the English, and he's an accounting.
So you got an accountant major? Let's talk later.
Mr. Chair, committee members, just for clarification, because this same packet that you have with you is the one that went to the full council and the mayor. So what we'll be doing, so we limit the confusion, is that we're just going to update the sheet that Janie has been kind of giving us bullet points and updates. That's what we're going to be updating. And that's what part of what we'll be walking through with the council. After Monday's meeting, if there's any further direction or changes, then we'll be updating the entire packet of the budget for the Thursday meeting.
Sounds like a workable plan to me. Okay, we're getting to the end of this meeting. Counselor, any questions? Should I ask one question? When we're supposed to go to 6:30?
Well, we started at 3:30.
Well, this is the first meeting we got done at a decent time.
Are they gonna reconsider on this workshop? Are they gonna move to reconsider on that last vote, the last council?
Reconsider what? The workshop?
Whatever we voted on last time, it was, but then I thought somebody wanted to change it back.
What went down?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, councilors, is the meeting, adjourned?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so I can go ahead.
You have to wait for the next.
This conference will now be recorded.
Anybody that's still on the phone, care to make any comments? Anybody on the phone care to make any comments?
So there's no comments.
Okay. So anybody else?
Dana Gallery, Larry Conley, 2015.
In Canto Drive.
The only thing I'm concerned about is that the city engineer department, I don't think the 121,000 for the assistant is gonna do the job. And I think you probably need 2 assistant city engineers down there. And you should take a look at it.
Okay. Point made. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay. Do you want me to do a motion or you just want me to adjourn the meeting?
That's adjourned.
Okay, we're adjourned now. You can turn it all off. Hey, I'm learning.
Mr. Mayor, what were you talking about reconsidering?